Hey there. I hope you've grabbed a coffee or a tea and made yourself comfortable. I certainly have. There are a lot of rules that apply to your meetings, and not all rules are created equally. So how can you be confident your organization is following the right ones at the right time? In this video, we're going to look at the hierarchy of rules. A simple way to understand this concept is with a pyramid. At the top, you have a small point, and at the bottom, you have a large base. This corresponds to how all these rules are situated, from top to bottom. Let's take a look. At the top of the pyramid, you have your constitutional law. In Canada, we're talking about the Constitution itself and the Charter of Rights and Freedoms. These are the most powerful laws of the land, but at the same time, they say very little about meetings. Whether we're talking about corporations, organizations, or municipal government, the Constitution doesn't say much about how meetings are to be run. Next level down, we have our statute law. These are laws passed by the national parliament and the provincial legislatures. In these statutes, acts, or laws, there's a little bit more to say about meeting procedures. In many cases, what they do is set the basic framework and give the organization the authority to adopt its own rules. Bylaws and policies. This is where you'll want to go to find answers to most of the questions you may have about your meeting procedures. A procedural bylaw or policy should have information like where and when the assembly meets, how main motions and staff reports are handled, rules around debate and decorum, and what the chair should consult to resolve disputes. Your procedural bylaws and policies are tailored to your assembly and go a long way to inform how you will conduct business and get stuff done. We have another category we're calling special rules of order. Different books have different names for this category, and you may not encounter a lot of examples of these in your time on the assembly. But at a high level, they are a tool the assembly can use when circumstances require you to depart from your parliamentary authority. They might be standing rules like shorter limits on speeches during debate, or they may be time-limited exceptions which are specific to a particular situation. These rules are tailored to meet your needs in a way that a rule book simply cannot help with. Your parliamentary authority is the rule book your assembly has chosen to guide all those aspects of meetings which are not addressed in your bylaws or your special rules. These texts are often the size of a novel, which is why they take up so much space in this triangle. One thing to remember, once you've chosen and identified your authority in your bylaw, you can't pick and choose from one of the many other authorities that are out there. Finally, practice and tradition. This is the category of how we've always done it. When your practice or tradition does not conflict with any of the above categories, it can help build the character of your organization. It's part of what makes your assembly special. But remember, these are informal practices, and when they conflict with any rule outlined in a category above, they yield to that written rule. And that's the pyramid. As you go higher, the amount of rules are fewer, but they are more powerful. And as you go lower on the pyramid, you will find more and more detail on more and more specific items. Once you have a sense of where these categories fit, figuring out which direction to go becomes pretty straightforward. Let's look at tradition versus bylaw. If you've been doing things one way and someone points out, that's not what's in our own bylaws, well, you're going to have to adapt by following what is written out in your bylaw. Same example when it comes to practice and authority. Until you adopt a long-standing practice into your bylaw or special rule, if your parliamentary authority says otherwise, you follow the authority's guidance. Here's one of my favorite examples because it shows three separate categories interacting with each other on a single question of Who votes? Municipal government in Nova Scotia is governed primarily by the Municipal Government Act, and many councils also use Robert's Rules as their authority. If you're familiar with Robert's Rules, then you know that the chair doesn't vote, except that in the Municipal Government Act, it says that every council member votes on every question, including the chair. So first, we need to follow the Municipal Government Act over Robert's Rules to find out who votes. But the example adds one more complication because if a council member doesn't vote, according to the Municipal Government Act, it is recorded in the negative, unless the council has adopted a procedural policy that says otherwise. In that instance, the Act, which would normally win out, delegates a power to the municipal council, but only if they decide they want a different outcome. So, there's an example of 3 levels of the pyramid interacting with each other and giving way at different parts of the question of who votes. Well, I'm close to being finished my coffee, and I'm sure you are too. If you've watched this video to the end, I'm sure you've encountered a scenario where your group has been faced with conflicting rules. What did you do in that case? What did you find helpful? What did you find confusing? Why not share your example in the comments below, and feel free to leave a question if you'd like. I'd love to hear from you. Until next time.